Yes, it's been a while since I've been on this channel. I have had some health issues that I'm recovering from. Um, I want to cover a couple of things. One of the things are, why is it so difficult for a young man today to get married? Should he get married? And also the coming Hanukkah. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started in 1 Timothy 4, verse 1. Now, the Ruach speaks expressly that in the latter days there will be a departing from faith, choosing instead wandering spirits and doctrines of demons. Okay? Speaking lies and hypocrisy, and we see that today in the latter days with politicians. Politicians are the greatest liars on the face of the earth. You know it, and I know it. Having their conscience seared with a hot iron. And all of those who participate, or nearly all of those who participate in politics, is aptly described this way. Both Jew and Gentile. Forbidding to marry, but what does this word to hinder marriage? How do they hinder marriage? Well, one way the state hinders marriage is to remove daddy as the head of the household. And now the government becomes the head of the household. You see, if the woman doesn't like that he is the daddy, the husband is not giving her enough attention, she will go run off to another man to go get some, and then if husband has a problem with it, she will accuse him of spousal abuse and have him thrown in jail. That is a primary example of hindering marriage. And if you wonder why young men are not getting married today, that is one of the primary reasons. Okay, and another one is to abstain from meat which not God, but Yehovah created to be received with thanksgiving in them which they believe and know the truth. Because every creature of Yehovah is good and nothing to be refused if it is received with thanksgiving. So, I'm sure you figured out by now that the same entity that has destroyed marriage in Western civilization is also trying to stop the production, the slaughter and eating of meat, and instead they want you to eat bugs, grasshoppers. Have you not seen it? Have you not heard? Maybe you should Google it if you haven't heard about this. So, marriage, it has become impossible in Western civilization. Why is that? Well, today I'm going to focus on the United States because much of it began here. And let me remind you, in Edwin Black's article, The Horrifying American Roots of Nazi Eugenics, I encourage everyone to read this article. Please read the whole thing. The doctrine of Adolf Hitler originated in the United States of America among the elites, the rich, and the Rockefeller Foundation. You will find that somewhere down in here. The Rockefeller Foundation helped found the German eugenics program, and he was funding the program that Joseph Mengele worked in before he went to Auschwitz. All right? Please read so you'll understand what's going on here. All right? Now what I wanted to show you is the Friedrich S. Jaffa report, or Vice President of Planned Parenthood Federation of America, for John D. Rockefeller's Population Council. How were they going to slow down, create population control? How were they going to do this? I will show you. What is the first thing that you see on the left-hand side is to restructure family and postpone or avoid marriage. B, alter image of ideal family size. And even when I was a child, in my single digits, they were making fun of my mom and dad for having 7 children. Compulsory education of children. And who was responsible for a consolidated school system? It began in the Kennedy administration. Encourage increased homosexuality. What was this all about? This was about population control. Educate for family limitation, fertility control agents in the water supply. Conspiracy theories? This is not conspiracy theories. This is a John D. Rockefeller population control statement. And encourage women to work. Yes, all of these women going to work and having jobs was designed specifically for one reason, and that is to stop marriages, control the numbers of children, and brainwash the people. Modify tax policies, substantial marriage tax, child tax, tax married more than single, remove parents' tax exemption. These were what they, some of these they actually pulled off, and some of them they haven't. Additional taxes on parents with more than 1 or 2 children in school. Reduce, eliminate paid maternity leave or benefits. Now, one reason why this was never implemented is because they found out that as what was his name? The one who came after John F. Kennedy, Lyndon Baines Johnson, said, and I quote, "We will have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years with his great society putting black folks on welfare. So they did change course here because, you see, votes were more important than population control, and they figured that if they would destroy marriage in some way among them, like removing the husband from the head of the household position, setting up abortion clinics all over the country, they could curb the black population and other undesirables in this way. So they did fudge things a little bit. All right. So they didn't eliminate welfare payments after the first 2 children, but they were hoping they could. But see, once again, they had a different way to get to the same result. Which is why the black population in the United States has not changed in percentage-wise in the past 40 years. At least not by much. Compulsory abortion of out-of-wedlock pregnancies, and that did happen, and in some cases still happens. You just don't hear about it. Compulsory sterilization, go back to this article and you will read all about it. The one about the horrifying American roots of Nazi eugenics. All right? Confine childbearing to be only limited to a number of adults. Stock certificate permits for children. Interesting. Discouragement of private home ownership. Now, all the way till today, they're now starting to say, you will own nothing and you will be happy. Now, watch this here. You will own nothing. And all I did was type in, you will own nothing, and it filled it in for me. And you will be happy. A phrase originated in a 2016 video by the World Economic Forum. And you can Google it and you can find it. I will continue with what I was talking about here. Now, where I live, I'm not telling you where I live. It is rural America, and there are a lot of black folks where I live, but a lot of old black folks. And many of them are passing on. But they all own, or nearly all of them, 99%, maybe 95 to 99% of them own their homes and their lands. Yet the populations that came after them own less and less and less until finally the young black folks of the day own nothing. They're only paying rent. And it's not just them, many, many other people. This is the reason why it is more and more difficult to own a house, properties. It is to discourage the private home ownership, stop awarding public housing based on family size. Well, the B didn't work because, you see, you had to purchase votes. And, of course, once again, abortion clinics would take care of the rest. Payments to encourage sterilization, payments to encourage contraception, payments to encourage abortion, abortion and sterilization on demand, allow harmless contraceptives to be distributed non-medically. Now, you have got a brain. You can make deductions of the adjustments that they made to politically survive, but this is what they have been pushing since the early 1900s. Make contraception truly available and accessible, improve maternal health care with family planning as a core element, and one particular party in the United States has that as their core doctrine. All right. Now let's go to the Kissinger report on population control. Now, some of you Jew haters out there, you will immediately point to the fact that Henry Kissinger was a Jew. I will show you in a few minutes that, in his own words, how he described himself, whether he was a Jew or not. Okay? Let's get started with this Kissinger report on population control conducted for the U.S. National Security Council. So the National Security Council of the U.S. was in charge of this, which includes the CIA, the military, etc. Therefore, family planning, contraception technology, and delivery systems and demand the motivation for reduced fertility would not be viewed in a mutually exclusive alternatives. They are complementary and may be mutually reinforcing. Please pardon me, my eyes are not very good. I'm doing the best that I can to read this small text. Short-term approach. These approaches include improvement and field testing of existing technology and development of new technology. It is expected that some of these approaches would be ready for use within 5 years. Specific short-term approaches worthy of increased effort were as follows: oral contraception, intrauterine devices, sterilization of men and women has received widespread acceptance in several areas when simple, quick, whatever. Injectable contraceptives. What is it? I can't see this. Luteolytic and autoprogesterone approaches to fertility control. I guess that would be birth control pills. Commercial channels, which in many countries sell condoms, oral contraceptives, and sometimes spermicidal foam over the counter. Private physicians, and the pill and all of that made available without prescription requirements through commercial channels such as drugstores. All right. NATO and Eastern Europe. In the West, only France and Greece have a policy of increasing population growth, which the people are successfully disregarding. In recent and significant change from the traditional positions, however, the French Assembly overwhelmingly endorsed a law not only authorizing general availability of contraceptives, but also providing that their cost be borne by the social security system. Other Western NATO countries have no policies. Most provide some of the substantial family planning service. All appear headed toward lower growth rates. In 2 NATO member countries, West Germany and Luxembourg, annual numbers of deaths already exceed births, yielding a negative natural growth rate, which is exactly what they wanted. And you can read the rest of this at your leisure. Now, did Henry Kissinger hate the Jews? Eric Altman is writing this in December the 5th, 2023, yesterday, since I believe he passed away recently. Maybe, but a more interesting question is why so many Jewish leaders want to give the guy a pass for his horrific treatment of Israel. And those of you who have watched this channel, you know that I made mention of the term capo. In the concentration camps, these were Jews who were given special privileges to police the other Jews, and they were given those special privileges by the Nazis. And of course, when certain concentration camps were open and the Jews were free, the Jews summarily killed the capos along with the Nazis with any kind of weapon, club that they could get their hands on. Am I calling Henry Kissinger a capo? No. But he probably did call himself one. I'll continue. I remember sitting with Calvin Trillin at Arthur Schlesinger's 2007 memorial service back when, to our mutual horror, Henry Kissinger mounted the podium as an invited speaker. This is a Jew speaking about Henry Kissinger. Typically, his talk was more about himself than about Arthur. Trillian turned to me and said, "He may have a big brain, but he is a very small man." Distinct from his public role as a frequent proponent of mass murder, torture, and authoritarian rule, both in and out of office, the private Kissinger was no picnic either. According to his former student and fellow policy maven, Leslie Gleb, Harvard professor, Henry Kissinger was devious with his peers, domineering with his subordinates, whatever the hell that word means, to his superiors. All of these qualities are evident in Kissinger's dealings with both the leaders of Israel and their surrogates in the American Jewish community. A friend of Kissinger's alleged anti-Semitism is a complicated one. Yes, he told a friend in the 1970s that Judaism has no significance for me. Is that calling himself a capo? I don't know. According to Walter Isaacson's 1992 biography, and is also quoted as having said in 1992, "If it were not for the accident of my birth, I would be anti-Semitic." Now that's crossing the line, folks. That's crossing the line. Another gem from that year: any people who has been persecuted for 2,000 years must be doing something wrong. That sounds like an enemy of Israel to me. Because you see, if he would have bothered to read Deuteronomy 30, he would have never said such a thing. Such words would have never came from his mouth. But to be fair, those views were not as uncommon among German Jews in the United States as one might wish them to be. One can find similar disturbing quotes in private discussions of, say, the great pundit and political philosopher Walter Lippmann and the longtime New York Times publisher Arthur Schlusberg, when confronted with Richard Nixon's frequently hysterical anti-Semitic rants about dirty, rotten Jews from New York who dared to reveal the truth about my lay massacre in Vietnam in the Times or some such thing. Kissinger usually tried to placate the president without explicitly agreeing or disagreeing. But when he felt Jews, whether American or Israeli, were refusing to cooperate with his plans, he was more than happy to join in, once complaining to Nixon that he had never seen such a cold-blooded playing with the American national interest as when American Jewish leaders supported Israel's position over that of the Nixon administration. The Israelis at various times were as obnoxious as the Vietnamese, boastful, psychopathic fools, a sick bunch, and the world's worst shits. And as for American Jewish leaders, they seek to prove their manhood by total acquiescence in whatever Jerusalem wants. These are words from Henry Kissinger. Was he a capo? Well, he talked like one. Let's continue. Kissinger was a Jew who found other Jews exceptionally annoying, none more so than the Israelis, for whom he frequently negotiated but failed to get to do things his way. The question was he worse about Jews in Israel than about anyone else who refused to genuflect before what he understood to be his genius? To be fair to someone who really doesn't deserve it, Kissinger, like Nixon, would tend to be churlish, racist reactions when anyone rebuffed him. When, for instance, Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi refused to go along with his plans for a secret opening to China, he informed the president that, well, the Indians are bastards anyway, and Gandhi herself was a bitch. But Kissinger also engaged in explicitly anti-Semitic action himself when, in September 1973, Nixon appointed him to be Secretary of State. Kissinger thanked him for saying nothing about his Jewish background, and he doled out jobs to his aides. He made certain to count the Jews to ensure that there were not too many of them. He explained that while he knew that it required 10 Jews for a minyan, a Jewish prayer service, he could not have them all on the 7th floor. Kissinger also once removed a counselor, a good friend, and fellow German Jew, Helmut Sonnenfeld, from a list of aides scheduled to accompany the president to Germany because he said, "I don't think too many Jews should be around." But here again, he was likely not acting out of personal anti-Jewish animus. Well, that's this man's opinion. Rather, he was behaving cravenly in the face of what he judged to be a Jew hatred of others, especially Nixon, who famously ordered an aide to count the number of Jews working in the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. For the purpose of history, the most important aspect of Kissinger's hostility to Jews in Israel can be seen in his conduct related to the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Kissinger apologists have constantly attempted to give him the credit that belongs almost entirely to Jimmy Carter for the peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. Martin and Dyke, a long-time diplomat and Kissinger acolyte, actually published a 688-page book titled Master of the Game, making exactly this comical claim. The truth is that Kissinger's machinations were at least partially responsible for the fact of the war itself. Egypt's visionary leader Anwar Sadat made clear to Kissinger and company that he was interested in a peace agreement with Israel and moving his allegiances from the Russians to the Americans. The Israelis expressed interest at that time, but Kissinger instructed them that they were wasting time in taking Sadat seriously. So Kissinger was playing both sides against the middle, according to this article, and actually caused the war. To make certain that Israelis went along with his plans, he secretly bribed them with a promise of over 100 U.S. Phantom fighter jets. His overture rejected, Sadat eventually decided that another war to avenge the humiliation in 1967 was his only choice to lay the groundwork for an eventual deal. Even Indike, who treats Kissinger's famous shuttle diplomacy between Israel and Egypt after the war as one of the great achievements of American diplomatic history, admitted in his book that Kissinger might have averted the Yom Kippur War by taking Sadat seriously earlier. Kissinger also helped ensure that Israel would be unprepared for the Egyptian attack. According to Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Dayan's secret testimony before Israel's 1974 Commission of Inquiry just before the war began, Kissinger warned Israel that if it wanted any help from the United States in the event of hostilities, then it should not make a preemptive strike against Egypt or Syria, or to mobilize the reserve army before the war actually started. And I have to ask myself a question: is that what happened in this current war in Gaza? Did the American Secretary of State do the same thing? Is that why the Gazans were allowed to attack first, and Israel did not do a preemptive strike? These warnings were given after Kissinger insisted that all other Americans leave the room and no notes be taken. Diane then canceled his Air Force preemptive operation and objected to Golda Meir's plan to mobilize reserves. Kissinger is not known to have given any similar warnings to the Egyptians. Indeed, according to Sadat's memoirs, Kissinger actually encouraged the attack via secret messages in order to improve Egypt's negotiating position in the war's aftermath. Is that the reason why this war between Israel and Gaza happened? In order to increase the position of the Palestinians, to force Israel to make somehow to back off and allow the so-called two-state solution to commence? Is that what happened? To my knowledge, Kissinger never addressed this. Kissinger wanted Israel to suffer a significant setback before it finally won the war. He succeeded at this at an enormous cost in lives on both sides. As the Egyptian army marched toward Tel Aviv, he informed Sadat and company the United States was doing merely the minimum to aid Israel that was possible under the circumstances. After 8 days of fighting, however, Nixon insisted over Kissinger's objections on implementing a massive emergency weapons airlift. He did this in spite of Kissinger's warning that victory would make Israel even more impossible to deal with than before. That is the definition of a capo. And it is not me calling him a capo. It is he himself doing it. Kissinger came in for extremely harsh criticism from some American Jews in this period. Hans Morgenthau, a respected international relations scholar whom Kissinger personally revered, went so far as to compare the pressure he was applying to Israel the way the West had treated Czechoslovakia in 1938 when it was threatened by Hitler. To try to disarm such critics, Kissinger undertook a series of off-the-record meetings with Jewish writers and intellectuals and another with leaders of the Jewish organizations. And I want to scroll down because there's just so much here, folks. That you really need to read this. And where is it that he was talking to Golda Meir? I guess I have to read through the whole thing. Here we go. I think, well, I'll just have to start here. To leaders of the Jewish organizations, Kissinger went further. He complained that he could not serve Israel's interests and prevent another attack if the Jewish community starts climbing walls every time I am seen smiling with Sadat. He was rewarded with a pledge from Max Fisher, a Republican funder, that Jews got the message. The Jewish community is becoming conscious of the need for a strong defense posture. When one participant did try to raise a question asking, is peace possible with the Palestinians, Kissinger replied, the Palestinians have to get a little hungrier. So he sided with the Palestinians. As Israel continued to resist his plans for disengagement into Sinai and the Golan Heights, Kissinger convinced President Gerald Ford in March 1975 to order reassessment of U.S. foreign policy in the region, which included a deliberate slowdown and deferral of armed deliveries pending its outcome. He announced that with every department is to be instructed to end the special relationship with Israel. Acting as much on the basis of paranoia and peak on the principle of policy, he accused American Jews of conducting a systematic campaign to undermine his authority and added to Ford, "I think the Israelis are after me." Alas, Ford and Kissinger's reassessment would be a short one. With lightning speed, Israel's Washington's lobbyists circulated a letter signed by 76 senators demanding that the president be responsive to Israel's urgent military and economic needs and make clear, as we do, that the United States, acting in its own natural interest, stands firmly with Israel in search of peace in future negotiations. Next came Congress cancellation of Ford and Kissinger's planned sale of defensive anti-aircraft weapons to Jordan. Should the pro-Israel message that move somehow be unclear, Bertram Gold, executive director of the American Jewish Committee, warned that if 1975 turns out to be a year of intense pressure on Israel, there will be a very serious reaction among American Jews. We will go directly to Congress. The 1976 election year is not that far away. Kissinger was predictably furious. He told one aide that what was needed was psychological warfare against Israel, which has treated us as no other country could, and threatened privately that if Jewish community comes after us, we will have to go public with the whole record. Resistance, he promised, would be futile, as he instructed his State Department colleagues that we are to see it through, and even if they win, it will do so much damage to the Jewish community here that it may never recover. Kissinger's anti-Israel animus hardly stopped there. He did everything he could to undermine then UN Representative Daniel Patrick Moynihan's campaign against the infamous Zionism is racism General Assembly resolution, grumbling, "We have been overdoing the defense of Zionism as a philosophy and as a system. Ask Moynihan to cut it back. We are conducting foreign policy. This is not a synagogue." He also told Meyer, according to Oval Office recordings made while Nixon was president, that the emigration of Jews from the Soviet Union is not an objective of the American foreign policy. He added that if they put Jews in gas chambers in the Soviet Union, it is not an American concern, maybe a humanitarian concern. Is that enough? Is that enough to convince you? Despite this egregious personal and political record on matters Jewish, upon the announcement of his death, the ADL, which once gave Kissinger its ADL Democratic Legacy Award, praised Kissinger, apparently unironically, for being unapologetic about his heritage, his embrace of the importance of American global power and democratic values. Virtually every American Jewish organization issued similar sycophantic tributes. How to explain this? Well, as Kissinger once responded to a Nixonian rant about Jewish traitors and the like, there are Jews and then there are Jews. But I missed a spot somewhere. I'm trying to get through this quick enough. But anyway, he said that he was an American first, a something second, and a Jew last. In fact, I can probably look it up. Quote, a Jew last. Okay. What? So this was a quote? That's his mother. Okay. Well, I guess I'm... Oh, wait a minute. This might be the one. No. All right. I guess I'm done with that. Or was it in this particular one? The Nixon tapes have recorded him remaining silent as his boss excoriates Jews in general. Where he returned from war in Europe, he told his father, certain ties bound in convention means nothing to me. I have come to judge men on their merits. He told Golda Meir that he was an American first, a Nixonite second, and a Jew last. This was from Henry Kissinger's this particular article, Religious Awakening. Okay. Now, are the Jews any more or less righteous than the Gentiles? No. No. In fact, I can go to not for your sakes. Ezekiel 36:22. So this whole chapter of Ezekiel 36 talks about them being scattered among the heathen, among the Gentiles. He's going to do something. It's about his namesake. Moreover, the word of Yehovah came unto me, saying, Son of man, when the house of Israel dwelt in their own land, they defiled it by their own way and by their doings. Their way was like a menstruous woman. For this reason I poured my fury upon them, the blood that they had shed upon the land, and for the idols which they had polluted with, and I scattered them among the Gentiles, and they were dispersed through the countries, according to their ways and according to their doings. I judged them, and when they entered among the Gentiles where they went, they profaned my holy name, when they said, These are the people of Yehovah, are gone forth out of his land. But I spared my holy name, which the house of Israel had profaned among the Gentiles where they went. Therefore say to the house of Israel, Thus says Adonai Yehovah, I do not do this for your sakes, O house of Israel, but for my holy name's sake, which you have profaned among the Gentiles where you went. And I will sanctify my great name, which was profaned among the Gentiles, which was profane in the midst of them. And the Gentiles shall know Yehovah, not I am the Lord. They shall know Yehovah, says Adonai Yehovah, when I am sanctified in you before their eyes. Because, and here's how he is going to teach the Gentiles the name Yehovah. I will take you from the Gentiles and gather you out of all the countries and will bring you into your own land, and I will sprinkle clean water upon you, and you shall be clean from all your filthiness. From all of your idols will I cleanse you, and a new heart will I give to you, and a new ruach will I put in you, and I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and will give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my ruach within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes and keep my judgments and do them. And you shall dwell in the land that I gave to their fathers, and you shall be my people, and I will be your Elohim. And I will save you from all your uncleanness, and I will call for the corn, and I will increase it, and lay no famine upon you. I will multiply the fruit of the tree, and increase the fruit of the field, and you shall receive no more reproach of famine among the Gentiles. Reproach of famine among the Gentiles. That's what occurred in the Holocaust. Famine means no food, hunger and starvation, while they were among the Gentiles. Then shall you remember your own evil ways and your doings that were not righteous, and you shall loathe yourselves in your sight for your iniquities and your abomination. Not for your sakes do I do this, says Adonai, Yehovah. Be it known unto you. Be ashamed and confounded for your ways, O house of Israel. So, is the Jew more righteous than the Gentile? No. But you see, there was a time of the Israel, and then there was a time of the Gentiles, and the time of the Gentiles is over. The Gentiles just don't know it yet. And unfortunately, Israel doesn't know it either. But when the judgment commences, Israel will know it. Okay? Now this judgment, does it occur on Hanukkah? I will ask the question like I just did. I will read scripture from Haggai 2. And you decide in your own mind, is it going to be this Hanukkah? I don't know. Every year on my YouTube channel, I remind people to be very circumspect, to be awake during Hanukkah, because something might happen. Verse 18, it says, set, put in place. Set, now this day. It says an upward in English, but it means forward or above. Exceedingly high, forward. Okay? So this day was to be made exceedingly high. Why? I mean, it's not one of the holy days that's written in Exodus, is it? No. Here's a reason why. The 24 and 20th day of the 9th month. The day that the foundation of Yehovah's temple was laid. Now, everyone should know that that is the evening before Hanukkah. Okay? Seed is in the barn, and the vine and the fig tree and the pomegranate and the olive tree. Lift and carry from this day will I bless you. From this day, on that day, will I bless you. And again the word of Yehovah came unto Haggai in the 24th day of the month, saying, Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Yehudah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth, and I will overthrow the thrones of the kingdoms, and I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the Gentiles. I will overthrow their chariots and those that ride in them, the sus, which can be horses, it can be chariots, it can also be war birds. And their riders shall come down every one by the sword of his brother. Now, so people are now learning about this population control thing, that scheme that governments have been trying to do, and it's making them angry. And I suspect with, the WEF and all of them, they're angry at them too. I suspect that there's also going to be revolts coming among the Gentiles. And that day says Yehovah of hosts, I will take you, Zerubbabel, my servant, son of Shealtiel, says Yehovah, and I will make you a sign. So Zerubbabel means begotten in Babylon. Well, the sign is, come out of her, my people, come out of Babylon and be not partakers of her sins. There's going to be an announcement to be made. Okay? Now, Isaiah 45 and verse 4, it says, For Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel is my elect. I have even called you by your name, I have named you, to know me. Implication is, they don't know him. So who are the elect again? All right. So, the tribulation upon Jerusalem occurred in 70 AD, nearly 2,000 years ago. And yet, you have whole doctrines among Christianity that says this occurrence is still yet to take place. In fact, I think I can find it in the First Baptist Church Doctrines. Watch this. Doctrine. Beliefs. All right. Where is it? Our beliefs. Oh boy. They got all the different ones, so I don't know if... I just saw it somewhere, and about the tribulation. They specifically state... Oh, here we go. Is it right here? No, this one right here, it doesn't show it. But another particular one, that it specifically talked about a great tribulation coming on Israel. Unbelievable that they have not read history. But anyway, so this occurred. This right here occurred. Great tribulation. Now it says, except those days be shortened. What days? The time of the Gentiles. Curtail is the proper word. Kolobao means to curtailed, means comes to an end. All right? But it says there would no flesh be saved at all. So that's talking about the very last day. So the tribulation upon the Gentiles began, the tribulation upon Israel began 70 AD, or approximately there, and is still going on. Why do I say this? Because if those days, if the time of the Gentiles were not curtailed, there would be nobody alive. You see, governments in Western civilization are trying to reduce world population. And the more and more financially insolvent these countries become, the more desperate they are to do so. Now they want to replace the workforce with AI and robots? You see what's happening here? But for the elect's sake, who's elect again? Huh? Do I need to remind you who the elect are? I just showed it to you. Israel are the elect. Right here. And Israel, my elect. Okay? So, for Israel's sake, those days shall be curtailed. So, then what with what comes next? It would be what Paul said in Romans 11 and 25, 26, 27. Speaking to the Romans, he says, "For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that partial blindness happened to Israel until a filling up of the Gentiles to go in." Now, as I pointed out many times, those of you who are not familiar with the way they told time back, they didn't have watches back then. They didn't have wind-up watches. They had an hourglass and a sundial. So which mode of time do you think that he was talking about? The sundial? Nope. It was the hourglass. The filling up of the hourglass of the Gentiles. So the time of the Gentiles would be curtailed when it is filled up, and then all Israel, the elect as Israel, Israel is the elect, shall be saved, because it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer who will turn away unrighteousness from Jacob. For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins. So Haggai 2 and the prophecy of Haggai 2 is upon us. Will it be this particular Hanukkah? I don't know. I don't know. But pay attention.